I was going to make a video about how to plan a ring road trip, but I think the beauty of camping around Iceland is that for the most part, you can be spontaneous and make your decisions on the fly. Your vacation can be completely unique to you. So instead, I thought I'd use this space to show you what we did, and you can take out of it what you want. Anytime I travel, the very first thing I try to figure out is what the best time of year is for that location. To me, that means when it is the least rainy and the least touristy. A quick Google search led me in the direction of a springtime trip to Iceland, so we booked 10 days from March 31st until April 9th. Comparing prices with other times of the year, this was definitely a cheaper time to travel, with hotel, airline, and campervan prices being nearly 40% off the rates you would typically see during the summer months. So it was a pretty substantial discount. Of course, traveling in the spring still meant the potential for snow, and we were certainly greeted with a bit of a flurry on our very first day on the ground. Now, once we knew when we were going to Iceland, it was important for us to know how. There's a million different ways to do ring road, but for us, we chose kind of a hodgepodge of options and created a mixture of hotel stays, Airbnbs, and campgrounds. And I'll touch on why we did this. In a quick overview, however, this is essentially the timeline of our trip. We began with an IcelandAir red-eye flight from New York to Reykjavik, landing us in the capital city for day one on March 31st. We arrived so early in the morning and with such little sleep that the very first thing we were eager to do was to take a nap. One of the best decisions we made was to actually book our hotel for the night before we arrived, so our room was guaranteed to be ready when we got in so early that morning. I'm a Hilton Honors member, so we paid with points and secured 2 nights at the Hilton Reykjavik Nordica, though we technically only slept there for the morning and night of March 31st. Also, keep in mind that the airport is about 40 minutes outside of the city, so if you're looking for some transportation between your hotel and the airport, check out FlyBus. Day 2 began as a blizzard, but was the day we were set to pick up our cozy campervan. And if you're interested to know why we went with that particular company, I've got a whole video dedicated to it, so be sure to check out my Iceland playlist. We knew we wanted a campervan though right from the start because it would allow us great flexibility and eliminate the hassle of, say, setting up a tent in the snow. We wanted to be safe and warm. 2 things to consider if you're planning to book a campervan is whether the vehicle is all-wheel drive or not and what insurance you might want to include. For us, we chose an all-wheel drive automatic campervan, which eased our minds to know we would have no trouble navigating the snow and could also have a bit of fun on some of Iceland's more difficult F-roads. As for insurance, we tacked on gravel protection, though there were even larger options that included sand and ash coverage, so that is completely up to you. We spent the next 3 nights of our vacation camping at designated campsites. You'll laugh at my homemade map, but I scribbled this together ahead of our trip so we would have an idea of where all the campgrounds were located. This was particularly important because at the time of our travel, a lot of campsites were actually still closed for the winter. We had way less options than would normally be available during the summer months. I used a bunch of different websites to create the map, and it worked out pretty well. It was important to have because it is illegal to camp outside of designated campsites in Iceland. You can't just pull over anywhere on the side of the road and sleep. We made no reservations in advance and decided where we were going to camp purely based on wherever we ended up on that particular day. Complete spontaneity. To ensure we were traveling at a good pace around Ring Road, we set up a few marker points along the way. After all, we did have a confirmed flight back to New York at the end of the trip that we had to make. With that, we made advanced reservations for 2 separate Airbnbs to break up our nights camping. The very first Airbnb was a lovely cottage in the East Fjords. It had all the essentials and the perfect amount of space for us to stretch our legs out for a bit and reorganize ourselves and the campervan. If you ever find yourself out this way, I cannot recommend this place enough. It was so relaxing and honestly one of the most serene places I've ever been. Our next night was spent at another unplanned campsite and followed up again by another Airbnb the subsequent evening. This Airbnb was very cute. It was yet another space we used to spread out and this time actually do our laundry. No, it did not come with a washing machine, but we managed to improv nonetheless. That might be something you want to think about ahead of your trip. Some of our earlier campgrounds had the appropriate laundry facilities, but it was too soon for us to really need anything washed at that time. Our final night camping in Iceland landed us at a gorgeous campsite in the north, where we ended up being the only humans in what felt like a 20-mile parameter. I know I'm glossing over what these campsites were like fairly quickly, but I did create a much more detailed video about our camping experience that you can check out after this video. Our return to Reykjavik landed us at the Hilton Canopy Hotel for our last night in Iceland. I'm really happy we planned it this way because it gave us time to enjoy our last full day on the road while also providing us with the opportunity to enjoy another full day in Reykjavik before our evening flight. We weren't rushed at all. Separately, I have to say the Hilton Canopy was so cool. It had a total hipster vibe, but it was fun, accessible, and unlike any hotel design I've ever seen. If I had to do it again, I'd skip the Hilton Nordica completely, our first hotel on the trip, and come straight to the Canopy. It's right in the heart of the city and a complete win in my book. So, reflecting on how we spaced out each of our days and where we stayed each night, I can tell you that we averaged about 3 hours of total drive time every day on the road. For us, this worked. It gave us a ton of freedom to pull over whenever we wanted and explore endless diversions. I put together another homemade map, this one a bit sloppier than the last, of interesting spots we could check out along our drive. We didn't get to everything, but we sure did see more than I had anticipated. This map was put together simply by reading travel blogs, perusing history books, asking for recommendations from locals, and embarrassingly enough, looking up Iceland pictures on Instagram to see what caught my attention. Of course, there were a few things we planned in advance, which included a guided elf tour, a private ice climbing tour, and a snowmobile tour. Some other notable highlights included our Skaftafell hike, our hot pot adventures, and all the areas we were able to see the northern lights. While part of me loves the surprise, I also like knowing in advance what things are must-see on my travels. I'd hate to leave a destination knowing I missed out on a great bucket list spot. So I like to think of my vacation planning strategy as informatively spontaneous. As I said before, this was less of a guide and more of a way to help you gauge some options for your trip. I think for us, the mixture of hotels, Airbnbs, and campgrounds really kept us comfortable throughout the trip. We had space to spread out when we needed it, and we had the perfect little home on wheels when we were ready to cover some ground. If I had to change one thing, I would have added on a day or two in the middle of the trip just to stay exactly where we were. No driving, just exploring whatever the immediate area had to offer. If you're interested to know more about our Iceland vacation, be sure to check out the playlist after this video where you can learn about apps you should download, hot pots to explore, and what Iceland campgrounds are really like. Happy planning!